Good afternoon. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Socorro, Texas, November 15th, 2022. It is 5:30 p.m. We call this meeting to order.
Good afternoon. Item number 2, establishment of quorum. Andrew Arroyos,
Here.
Enrique Cisneros,
Here.
David Estrada,
Here.
Julie Dominguez, absent. Miriam Cruz,
Present.
Juan Vaquera.
Here.
We have a quorum with 5 commissioners present, 1 absent. Item number 3, notice to the public, open forum. Lisbeth, do we have anyone that would like to speak? Item number 4, consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
I second.
I have a motion made by Miriam Cruz to approve and second by Andrew Arroyos. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Regular agenda discussion and action. Item number 5, consider and take action on the proposed approval of final subdivision plat for Socorro Logistics Center, Unit Number 2, located at the intersection of North Loop Road and Nuevo Huecotanks Road, being a portion of Track 8, 9, 10A, and 11C, and a portion of Tracks 10A1 and 11C1, Block 5, Socorro Grande, Socorro, Texas. Mr. Gallina?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Chair and Commissioners, Carlos Gainad with Planning and Zoning Department. Hope you all are doing well. This is the final plat of the Socorro Logistics Center Unit Number 2. As you all know, you are familiar with this project. This is the second phase or the second plat that's come in. You approved the preliminary plat back in August, and this is the final plat. So again, as the way of background, the zoning is industrial commercial mixed-use development. It's about 60.74 acres. Address is along Nuevo Huecotanks Road. Future land use map has this as light industrial. Land use is vacant, and the proposed land use, as you all know, is going to be warehousing / logistics center. The request is to approve the final plat. The plat shows 2 lots and 1 public street. The preliminary plat was approved by City Council on August 18, 2022, and staff is recommending approval as it meets all the requirements of the subdivision code. Here's the location map again, North Loop area, Nuevo Huecotanks area. Here's the feature, here's the zoning map. Here's a picture of the property. Although if you drive there now, you'll start to see a lot more of activity. There's some of the buildings are going up and the infrastructure has been put in. Here's the aerial image. Here's the final plat. So it shows the 2 lots and a portion of the street. And the request again is to approve the final plat, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any questions. Anybody else?
Yeah, I do. Is the applicant here?
Yes, ma'am.
And when, I know that the subject or the agenda item names it Unit 2. Should we assume that it refers to Phase 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's highlighted on. One, the reason I ask is because it seems that on the master plan phasing, Phase 2 is labeled differently. I don't know if that's up on your slides. And it's the one that goes along North Loop.
I think that's for the other item, ma'am. The other
Right,
item is
so-
also on Socorro Logistics, but it's the commercial portion.
So could you put up the master plan phasing image and
I
then with the cursor?
I don't have that in my presentation, but you have it there, and the applicant has it, so we could follow along with your questioning.
Okay, well, my question is it Phase 2? The ones that are labeled as Phase 2?
Yes, correct.
Sorry, I have another question.
Mr. Gainad, nothing's changed also, right? Nothing from the
Correct, sir.
preliminary?
Everything's the same. We reviewed the preliminary and we reviewing the final.
And I guess I'm just wondering, is there a reason why we don't have updated pictures, images? Is that something that will be provided to city council
Yes, ma'am.
and just not to us for some reason?
I think people drive it all the time. I think they're familiar with the location. They see the buildings going up, the infrastructure's going up.
Right, but maybe, I mean, it's a public meeting, and we want to provide the public as much information as we can.
Sure.
So not all the public goes through there. I guess I would just invite that next time that information be provided to us as well. But no, those were all, well, actually, there is on phase 2, the part that is along North Loop, there is a lateral that's, talked about, let's see. It's best labeled probably on the next agenda item. But it looks like part of it is on phase 2. There is a lateral, which I assume is a small, válgame Dios. It's not a river, it's not a creek, it's, I'm sorry? Irrigation. Thank you, an irrigation ditch. It looks like that part of one goes through phase 2. Well, maybe I can ask the applicant or Mr. Gallina, but is that staying intact? Are there gonna be any developments over or under those as part of maybe a agreement with the water district?
That's correct, and just for the record, Jorge Grajeda with CEA Group. Yes, that's irrigation ditch, belongs to the El Paso County Water Improvement District. And during the design phase, we're also coordinating with them as well to cross over those laterals and the drains.
And so I guess my question is, I believe there's gonna be some commercial property on the, close by. Is the plan to cover it up, maybe make it an underground ditch, or leave it as it is, but just improve it?
No, so the roadway just crosses over that ditch, with like your typical street. There is some guardrails that are put along the sidewalks, but that's ultimately it. That's what's required
By them.
by El Paso County Water Improvement District, right? Because
Okay.
those are their right of ways, their facilities.
Right, okay, thank you so much. Those are all my questions.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to approve and second by Enrique Cisneros. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays?
Abstain.
Motion carried. Item number 6, consider and take action on the proposed approval of preliminary subdivision plat for the Socorro Logistics Commercial Unit 1, located at North Loop and Inglewood, being a portion of tracks 13A, 13A 2B, and all tracks 14A and 14F, Block 5, Socorro Grant, Socorro, Texas. Mr. Gallina?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Carlos Gainar, once again, this is the same development, only this deals with the commercial portion of it. So again, Socorro Logistics Commercial Unit Number 1. And this is the first time you're seeing this one, in terms of the plats. It's a preliminary plat. So again, the zoning is ICMUD. This is about 8.4 acres. The address is on the other side along Nuevo, I'm sorry, it should be North Loop and Inglewood. Future land use map has this as light industrial. Land use is currently vacant. Proposed land use is retail commercial. And the request is to approve a preliminary plat. The plat shows 6 commercial lots, 1 public street, and 1 private pond. Staff is recommending approval. Here's the location map again. So again, this is closer to North Loop and Inglewood. Here's the zoning map. These are pictures of the property. Here's the aerial image. And again, the preliminary plat showing the 6 different lots, and the street and the private pond. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Is there a reason why we wouldn't want to continue the street that looks like it's gonna connect to Inglewood? Or at least that it's gonna be across from, is there any reason why we wouldn't wanna name that Inglewood as well? Could you speak on the microphone?
Yes, so that street was recorded with Socorro Logistics Court as part of Socorro Logistics Center Unit 1. So it's already a recorded street name. So we're just extending that to Inglewood. So it's not going to be an Inglewood extension. It's at the intersection, but it's going to carry its own name.
Right, and I guess the reason I ask, there's nothing personally that I find more frustrating when I visit a new place, trying to follow directions, and the street continues and it's two different, names. Sometimes it can be confusing, whether it's gonna be for these truck drivers or the businesses that are supposed to go around the corner. But anyway, I have another question. The private pond, and I think this came up, at the city council meeting last week, or whenever the last meeting was, a couple weeks ago. Because it's a private pond, y'all will be responsible, and this question might be for Mr. Reynad or for Marwan, but it's a private pond, y'all will be upkeeping. Do our ordinances apply to them? I.e., would we be able to, the city, be able to go in there and cite, right, give them a citation if they're not keeping up the pond as per our ordinances?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so even though it's a private pond, they still have to follow what we require per our ordinances and?
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Okay. And that would go for all of the private ponds that are in the logistics center?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I guess because it's gonna be a private pond, I believe our ponds in the city of Socorro that the city of Socorro maintains, there is a rock wall requirement that it be completely enclosed by a rock wall, or I guess maybe just a fence. Is that something that y'all are planning to do? Is it gonna be more of like an open landscaping sort of?
No, on that particular one, just because it's a little bit deep, we are going to have it enclosed with either a rock wall or a chain link fence. So it'll follow the code standards per the city regulations.
You said it's gonna be a little bit deep?
So it's probably designed right now, it's maybe about 5 feet deep.
Uh-huh.
So it's not really going to be used for any landscaping purposes at that point.
Right. And I guess as far as, I know you guys are still constructing, they're still digging, you're still building. But it seems that Nuevo Jico Tanks is now a little bit maltratado, right? It's a little, there's a lot of dirt on the road, and it doesn't look like it's gonna be easy to, I mean, I don't know what's on the road, actually. It just, people drive by there and, you feel rumble because there's stuff stuck on the road. Is that something that you guys plan to clean up after y'all are done?
We could bring it up to the contractor's attention, just to practice a bit more on best management practices at the entrances with Nuevo Hueco tanks to avoid any debris coming into the roadway.
Right, okay. Because I feel like we've been asking for the last few months, and it seems like it's still an issue.
Well, we continue to ask them to provide, best management upkeep along the roadways, along the streets. So it's something that, we just don't tell them, at these meetings, but, just general weekly meetings that, we let them know, hey, make sure the dirt is kept on site and no debris is on the actual public right-of-ways.
Right, okay. Because I mean, now I feel like it's more than just debris, it's more of maybe what's falling off the trucks that are coming in and out. And it really is just, I mean, it's stuck there. And now I believe that road belongs to City of Socorro, and it just doesn't seem fair that our maintenance team, right, would have to clean up just to keep it, safe and clear for our residents to drive by. But if you could bring that up, that would be great.
Sure.
Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion. Does anybody else have anything? Like to make a motion to approve, please.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to approve, second by David Estrada. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Item number 7, consider and take action on a recommendation to City Council to amend Chapter 46 zoning, Article 4, District Regulations by adding Division 16, General Mixed Use District. Mr. Gallina?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. For the record, once again, Carlos Gallinado, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, this item was taken to City Council with the recommendation that you all suggested last time, which was to postpone so that you all have more time to review. City Council nevertheless voted on it and passed the ordinance, so I'm happy to review it with you once again. However, your motion or your vote would be moot at this point as the ordinance has already passed.
Make a motion to remove item 7.
Do I have a second?
And for the record, if I may, Chair, City Council did already vote on it. They approved it. I don't think that our voice was heard at that meeting. Our request was heard or fought for. So I just, as Mr. Gallina said, it's a moot point, and I think if we have recommendations, we can forward those to our representatives. That's what I think.
So recommendations can't be made at this point? Or I guess it,
You could, Mr. Cisneros, you could hear the item again if you'd like, but City Council voted on it. There wouldn't be another agenda item posted to City Council where your recommendation would be forwarded.
very good. I'll second the motion.
I have a motion made by Miriam Cruz to remove item, second by Enrique Cisneros. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstains?
Abstain.
Motion deleted. Item number 8, consider and take action on recommendation to City Council to amend Chapter 46 zoning, Article 5, supplemental regulations for all districts, Section 46-634, signs by modifying subsection 24. Mr. Gallina?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Carlos Gallinado once again. So this is another proposed ordinance change to the sign ordinance. So what is currently happening, especially along the Socorro Logistics Center development, is we are starting to see developers or construction companies on the vertical construction come in and ask questions on the sign ordinance. And so currently the way that the sign ordinance for the city of Socorro does not have specific regulations for any mixed-use districts for the ICMUD or now the GMU. And so what this does is it adds regulations to the zoning code for mixed-use districts. Next slide. So what's in front of you is essentially what would be, there's the whole section on signs, and then if you notice, there's sections for C1, C2, and then there's no regulations for mixed-use districts. So this would be a new section in the code that would include mixed-use districts. And so essentially what the new ordinance would dictate is the following: 1 monument sign per lot per dedicated street frontage. The size would be 80 square feet maximum. The support structure is not part of the sign square feet, so you'd still have some degree of monument structure that would hold the sign up. Height would be 15 feet maximum to include the support structure. The locations is not closer than 5 feet from the property line or within the site triangle. You are allowed to have a wall sign, 1 wall sign per dedicated street per occupant with a 40 square feet maximum, and may not project more than 18 inches beyond the face of the building or project beyond the corner of the building. And then wall signs shall not interfere with building fenestration or architectural integrity of building. And then there's no blinking or flashing lights that are permitted for any of the signs. Neither direct nor reflected light from any light source shall create a traffic hazard or distraction to motorists, and no pole signs would be allowed. So this is the regulations, and essentially the next slide shows you what those monument signs would look like. And so similar to the ones that you see up on East Lake development. So these would be the type of signs that you would see along the Socorro Logistics Center development and along any mixed-use district. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Madam.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
If I remember correctly, when we're looking at commercial properties, the sign, the square footage for the sign is 100 feet? So this would be less than the commercial
So
signage that we currently have for commercial
the
spaces?
height, Mr. Cisneros, so let me see if I remember. The height on a commercial sign would, I believe, is 25 feet. The tallest it could be from the top of the sign is 25 feet.
But-
And then the square footage, I believe, is 125
Okay.
square feet, maybe even a little bit, maybe even a little bit larger.
So this is gonna be smaller than the commercial
Yes, sir.
properties right now?
Correct.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't want to apply this to all commercial lots?
Yes, I think we should. And quite frankly, let me just say this, Ms. Cruz, I think the whole sign ordinance needs a whole rewrite. I don't have the capacity to do it, and I think it needs to be kicked over to sort of a professional firm or someone else that can dictate best practices. The reason that I'm bringing this one forth is because we are already starting to see sign permits or inquiries on signs for this particular location, and we don't have any. And so this was sort of a expedited
Sure.
fix for a section of the code that's missing. But to answer your question, yes, I think we should revise it totally and maybe include these same standards to all commercial lots.
Okay. Because one concern I've brought up a few times in city council meetings is a sign, it's a school, the Idea School on Rio Vista? Is it Rio Vista? Yeah. At night, their light, it's almost blinding.
Yeah.
And it's a little frustrating because it's a school and I'm sure they're safe during the day, but at night, it's not, at least in my opinion. And so, I guess not just commercial, but I don't know where schools fall under,
Special use district.
special use,
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful too. Obviously, we can't backtrack, but, moving forward, I can envision maybe more schools being built anyway, and so it might be a possibility.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Gainar, you mentioned that there is a particular location that is requesting this information. So there is a property that needs to be changed from residential, commercial to multi-use?
No, sir. So, you mean what I mentioned, the Socorro Logistics?
No, you mentioned that there's a particular location right now that's requesting, or I guess my question
Yes,
is,
sir.
is there somebody that's applying for this particular change in status?
So, so the answer to your second question is no one's requested this change. The first part of your question, what I said is that we are starting to get inquiries from potential tenants on Socorro Logistics. So if you look at the commercial area that you've seen, right, the corner lot, there's
Okay.
12 lots, I believe. We've had at least 2 entities inquire, hey, City of Socorro, what are your sign regulations? What's your landscaping regulations? What are your curb cuts? And so while they have not submitted permits, we know that's coming, right? We know that there's gonna be development. And so when answering that question for those 2 individuals who have asked, we don't have any specific sign regulations for mixed-use districts. So if you go back, Mr. Cisneros, and look at the sign ordinance right now, there are specific regulations for commercial.
Yes.
And so this would be adding the regulations for mixed use.
So we do have 2 companies, people, owners specifically asking for mixed-use questions, so we're gonna see it pretty soon.
That's exactly right, sir.
Okay, because in the last meeting, we specifically asked, and the reason we had asked specifically to table it was because we wanted more opportunity to read it. And I don't know if it was you, but somebody said there was not somebody that was waiting on this change, and I can understand, that they haven't filed yet.
Yes, sir.
But, yeah, I guess that's where my confusion was. And that's why I had made the recommendation to pend it, not to vote on it last time.
Sure.
But I guess there are at least two people requesting that we are expecting down the pipeline to go
Yes, sir,
through
but I
this
think
process.
you're confusing two things.
I think
So the
number
general
7.
mixed use is just a mixed use zoning district separate from this. So separate from this, we talked about the GMU, general mixed use district, that would add another zoning category to the zoning code,
Mhm.
right? So that passed, that was approved by city council. Separate and partial from that are sign regulations. And so zoning ordinances, as you know, dictate setbacks, lot dimensions, landscaping, historic preservation, architectural guidelines if you want them. They also parking, they also dictate signage. And so separate from this, we know that on the sign side, not anything having to do with GMU, we know that we're going to start getting to see applications for construction projects in the Socorro Logistics Center, of which we have none, but for the ones that are in front of you.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a recommendation to approve.
Second.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to approve, second by Miriam Cruz. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Item number 9, Planning and Zoning Commissioners Report.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How many absences has Ms. Julie Dominguez had in a row? This will be the third one? Okay. Just wanted to check. It seemed like it might be the third. And then my second question actually goes to what Mr. Cisneros brought up. On item number 7, we were told during the last meeting that there was nothing pending. And at city council meeting, Representative Rudy Cruz mentioned that there were individuals waiting for this, and that's why it moved forward. So my comment under our report is that if there is information that can be gathered prior to our meetings, I think we would find that helpful. Because either, I just don't see that information developed in the 2 days between our meeting and city council meeting. And so if Representative Cruz, again, no relation, did in fact know about projects or something coming down and that there was that urgency, I mean, he is in fact the one who requested that ordinance. I think it's important, that's important information that we would like during these presentations.
Yes, ma'am. But you're suggesting that I had that information and I did not. So everything that I told you at that meeting was factually correct, ma'am. So
Okay.
please don't imply that I was lying to you or that I misled you, because any information, he said it, I didn't say it.
Right, and
And
that's
so I was
right.
not privy to that information, so I can't give you information that I'm not privy to.
Right, and I wasn't implying that. I guess
Well,
what
it's
I
kind of
was,
sounded like you were.
and I apologize for that.
Okay.
I guess what I was suggesting is that if we could inquire into some of that information so that it could
Sure.
potentially be provided to us in the future, that would be helpful.
I do have something to add to that. Is there, so, as a planning and zoning office, you guys have been working on this for 4 months, I think, something, or since April, right? Something like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any other changes that are coming down the pipe, or that we can keep in mind so that, one, we can get familiar with them, and I think the hard part too was, when I saw the YouTube video, because I always go over them just so I can stay up as much, keep up to date as much as I can. I think it wasn't expressed to them that said, hey, well, since we don't have an item that's pending or down the pipeline that this is going to go to, that's why I think that was one of the bigger deciding factors of why we decided to, or at least that's why I decided to ask for the postponement. But is there any other future changes that are this drastic and that we've been working on as a city that we can expect in the next, before the end of the year?
So I think there's two, one having to do with allowing trucks in residential areas, that was also requested by city council
To allow them?
to, yes, sir. So that might come to you, I think, December 6th or the 17th, certainly before the end of the year. And then there may be a landscape ordinance also requested by city council, which may or may not make it by the end of the year, sir.
Thank you. And I do have one more question. We're still missing, there's still one slot available on planning and zoning. Have we had anybody that's been considered for it, or whose position is it for city council to fill?
Do you have the bylaws or the list of, it was Mr. Gomez, who is no longer here. So that I know of, sir, I have not had any inquiries. I'm not sure, again, people go directly to the mayor and council, so they may have information on that.
Well, I guess maybe we go around and say who appointed us, if we could figure it out potentially by
Well,
process.
I was appointed by the last mayor, so I don't know if that works this time. Yeah, but then I think I was appointed to Alejandro, I don't know his last name, Mr.
Garcia.
Alejandro Garcia, yeah.
Just to follow, oh, was it the mayor?
Okay.
Mayor has,
By mayor? Oh, okay, yeah. But do we know who's missing, like a person on the board?
It was Mr. Gomez's slot.
Yes, ma'am.
oh,
Okay.
okay.
Also, okay. We'll see her at breakfast tomorrow at the Socorro.
I had a follow-up on the second thing you mentioned, the landscape ordinance. Is that residential, commercial, is it everything?
Everything.
Oh, okay, thank you.
One last
And-
thing, sorry. The city of Socorro is putting on some really great programming when it comes to small businesses. If you guys are not getting the emails, please reach out to
Jose Quiñones.
Jose Quiñones. He's doing an incredible job, and I think that anything that we can do, not only as volunteers, but in our work life, it's something that I think is really worth your time. Just want to say that.
And I have one last thing. This actually may be my last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. This Thursday, I may be resigning if I get appointed to a different board, so I just wanted to give you all a heads up. FYI, there'll be a second opening.
Which board?
Board of Adjustments.
Okay.
And so since they passed the rule where you can only serve on one, I would gladly serve on both, actually, but it's the rule, so. Just wanted to give you all a heads up, especially for quorum purposes, that you guys keep in mind. And thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure serving with you all.
Item number 10, Planning and Zoning Department report.
Mr. Chair, the only item that I had is, again, the holidays are coming up, so we do have two scheduled meetings in December 6th and the 20th. Just want to make sure that you all are aware, we will have items come before you, definitely for the 6th, not 100% sure for the 20th, but if there are items, just want to make sure that people are okay with those dates, and we may not have any issues with attendance. Just wanted. And if if you think you will be, just shoot me an email or give me a phone call and let me know. Thank you.
Item number 11, consider and take action on the adjournment of this meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks, guys.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to adjourn, a second by Miriam Cruz. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 6:04. Thank you.